Hey, quick question. Have you ever noticed that your mind just never stops? Even when you want to relax or enjoy something, your thoughts keep racing. Maybe you start worrying about things that haven't happened yet or replay events from the past, and it can feel exhausting. Honestly, I used to think that's just how life is. I thought we had to constantly think, plan, and stress to achieve anything. But what if all that nonstop thinking is actually making life harder for you? Sounds kind of wild, right? There's a book called Don't Believe Everything You Think that really opened my eyes. It argues that the true source of our suffering isn't what happens around us. It's what goes on in our minds. And the surprising part? We don't have to believe every thought that comes to mind. Imagine if you could lower that mental noise, the stress, the fear, the overthinking, and just feel calm, clear, and genuinely happy. No pushing, no forcing, just a natural sense of peace. In the next few minutes, I want to share some powerful ideas from this book about how your mind works, why suffering occurs, and most importantly, how you can stop overthinking and start living differently. If you're tired of feeling trapped in your mind, or if you want to find real peace and confidence, then stick around. Because once you understand this, things can change in a big way. Chapter 1: The Journey to Finding the Root Cause of Suffering. Pain is a natural part of life. People get sick, relationships end, we lose things we care about, and that hurts. But pain and suffering are not the same thing. Pain is what happens to you. Suffering is what your mind does with it. Most people think suffering is caused by outside events like a breakup, failure, or loss. But the truth is, those things only cause pain. Suffering comes from how we think about those things, the stories we tell ourselves, the meaning we attach. We replay painful memories. We imagine worst-case scenarios. We overthink, worry, blame, regret. That's suffering, and it's optional. We don't choose suffering on purpose, but we create it when we believe everything we think. Some habits, like waking up early, meditating, or working out, can make us feel better. They help us cope, but they don't solve the deeper problem. To truly end suffering, you have to go to the root. You have to understand how your mind works. When you learn to observe your thoughts, without getting caught up in them, you'll realize you are not your mind. And that's where real freedom begins. Chapter 2: The Root Cause of All Suffering. We don't actually live in reality. We live in our thoughts about reality. That's why two people can go through the same situation and have completely different experiences. It's not the event that shapes how we feel. It's the meaning we attach to it. Take money, for example. For one person, money means freedom and comfort. For another, it might represent greed or corruption. Same thing, different meaning. And here's the truth. Reality by itself is neutral. Things happen, that's it. Good or bad only exists in our mind. Our suffering doesn't come from what's happening around us. It comes from how we interpret what's happening. From the stories we create in our head. Thoughts create emotions, and those emotions shape how we experience life. So if we want to be free from suffering, we have to stop blindly believing every thought that passes through our mind. Sometimes we even have to stop thinking altogether, because the more we overthink, the further we drift from peace. Freedom begins when we stop living in our thoughts and come back to the present moment. Chapter 3: Why do we even think? Thinking helped us survive. From the beginning, humans had to analyze their surroundings, look for threats, and learn from their mistakes. If we didn't think ahead, we wouldn't have lasted very long as a species. That's why your mind is always busy, constantly scanning for danger, remembering the past, predicting the future. It's not doing anything wrong. It's just doing its job. But here's the problem. We're no longer running from wild animals or fighting to stay alive every day. The world has changed, but the mind hasn't. So now, instead of saving us, our thoughts often trap us. We overthink small things. We dwell on past mistakes. We imagine problems that haven't even happened yet. And all of that leads to stress, anger, anxiety, frustration. To break free from this cycle, we don't need to fight our thoughts. We just need to stop giving them so much attention. You don't have to believe everything your mind tells you. You can gently shift your focus to your breath, to the present moment, to something real, and in that space, peace returns. Chapter 4. Thoughts versus thinking. Thoughts happen. You can't stop them, and you don't need to. They're part of being human. They come and go like clouds passing through the sky. Without thoughts, you wouldn't be able to experience anything.
No avarenes, no reflection, no creativite.
But thinking, that's something else. Thinking is what happens after the thought. It's when we hold on to it, analyze it, judge it, and start spinning stories around it. That part is optional. And that's where suffering begins. A thought by itself is harmless. But the moment you start thinking about it, is this good or bad? Why did this happen? What does it mean about me? You give it power. Thinking pulls you out of the present moment and into a mental loop that's hard to break. You start feeling emotions like fear, shame, guilt, or anger, not because of the original thought, but because of what you did with it. Here's the difference in one line. Thoughts create. Thinking destroys. If you can learn to notice your thoughts without judging them, without getting caught in them, you create space. And in that space, there's peace. Chapter 5. If we can only feel what we're thinking, don't we need to think positively to feel that way? It's easy to believe that we need to think positively in order to feel happy. But the truth is, thinking, whether positive or negative, pulls us away from peace. Negative emotions do serve a purpose, but mostly in life or death situations. Fear, anger, anxiety, these were useful when survival was at stake. But today, most of our stress doesn't come from real danger. It comes from overthinking. We often assume that if negative thinking makes us feel bad, then positive thinking must make us feel good. But look closer. When you feel truly happy, at peace, or in love, are you busy thinking, or are you just being? In those moments, your mind is quiet. You're present. You're not analyzing or judging anything. You're simply alive, and that's enough. The author suggests that this state, joy, love, contentment, is actually our natural state. It's not something we create with our thoughts. It's what's left when the thoughts stop. The more we think, even if it's positive, the more we get in our own way. Real happiness isn't something you have to chase with your mind. It's already here, underneath the noise. Chapter 6. How the human experience is created, the 3 principles. Everything we feel, see, and experience in life comes from 3 fundamental principles: universal mind, universal consciousness, and universal thought. These aren't just ideas. They're the foundation of how we experience being human. Let's break each one down. Universal mind is the intelligence behind all life. It's what tells a tree how to grow, what heals your body when you get a cut, what keeps your heart beating without you thinking about it. It's also the source of our thoughts. They don't come from us, they come through us. When we're connected to the universal mind, we feel whole, peaceful, and alive. But the moment we start overthinking, we disconnect from that deeper wisdom. That's when we feel stressed, anxious, sad, or lost. Universal consciousness is the awareness that allows us to know we exist. It's how we experience life. It's that quiet part of you that notices your thoughts, your feelings, your surroundings. Without consciousness, there would be no awareness, just emptiness. And finally, universal thought is our ability to think. It's the creative force behind every idea, memory, belief, and imagination. It's not the thoughts themselves. It's the power to have thoughts. Without it, we couldn't create anything. Not art, not stories, not even problems. These 3 principles work together. Mind gives us life. Consciousness lets us experience it. And thought shapes how it feels. When we understand this, we stop fighting our experience and start flowing with it. And in that flow, we find clarity, peace, and truth. Chapter 7. If thinking is the root cause of our suffering, how do we stop thinking? Here's the truth. You can't completely stop thinking, and you don't need to. Thoughts will always come and go. That's just how the mind works. The goal isn't to get rid of thoughts, but to stop getting stuck in them. The problem isn't that we think. It's that we think too much and we don't even realize we're doing it. What we can do is create space. Instead of chasing every thought or reacting to each one, we can let them pass like clouds in the sky, noticing them but not holding on. Over time, this gives the mind a chance to settle. Just like muddy water becomes clear when left still, your mind becomes clear when you stop stirring it up. That clarity doesn't come from effort. It comes from letting go. The more you try to fight your thoughts or control your mind, the more tension you create, and the more stuck you feel. So don't fight your thoughts. Don't judge them. Just notice them and gently return to the present moment. Eventually, the noise fades, and what's left is your natural state. Joy, peace, clarity, love is always there. You're never more than a moment away from returning to it. Chapter 8. How we can possibly thrive in the world without thinking. It might sound strange, but some of our best moments happen when we're not thinking at all. Think about the last time you were so focused on something that you completely lost track of time. Maybe you were painting, playing music, surfing, writing, whatever it was, you were in a state of flow. Flow is that mental zone where you're fully immersed in what you're doing. You're not thinking. You're not doubting. You're just doing. And everything feels smooth, effortless, alive. In that state, your mind is quiet.
No inner critic. No overanalyzing.
Even emotions fade into the background. It's just pure presence. Ironically, this is when we perform at our best. Athletes, artists, creators, they all describe this same feeling. It's not that they're thinking their way through it. It's that they've stopped thinking altogether. They're not trying to be great. They're simply being. This is what the author means when he says we can thrive without thinking. We're not running on logic or fear. We're moving from instinct, from intuition, from something deeper than thought. And when we tap into that, we open the door to our full potential. In flow, we're not limited by past failures, fears, or doubts. We become limitless. Chapter 9. If we stop thinking, what do we do about our goals, dreams, and ambitions? One of the biggest questions people have is this. If we stop thinking so much, what happens to our goals, dreams, and ambitions? Doesn't thinking drive us forward? Isn't it what helps us achieve success? The truth is, it all depends on where your goals come from. Just like with thoughts and thinking, the source makes all the difference. There are two places your goals can come from: inspiration or desperation. When your goals come from desperation, you're acting from fear, from scarcity, from the feeling that you're not enough. And that maybe if you just achieve this next goal, you will be. You feel rushed, stressed, pressured. You chase outcomes, looking outside yourself for meaning. Even if you succeed, it's never enough. You hit the goal and set another one. The cycle continues, and so does the emptiness. But when your goals come from inspiration, it's a completely different experience. These goals feel light, exciting. They move through you. You don't chase them, they call to you. The author calls this divine inspiration, a deeper wisdom beyond the thinking mind. Inspired goals come from stillness, from that quiet space beyond all the noise. They're not created by analyzing or overthinking. They arrive like a spark, a clear, energizing idea. You can feel the difference. Desperate goals feel like obligations. I have to. I should. If I don't, I'll fall behind. Inspired goals feel like truth. I want to. I'm ready. This feels right. The key is to notice how the goal makes you feel. If it brings anxiety, pressure, and doubt, it's probably coming from thinking. If it brings peace, excitement, or curiosity, it's probably coming from inspiration. In the end, the goal itself isn't what matters most. What matters is the energy behind it, because that energy is what carries you through the process. Chapter 10. Unconditional Love and Creation. Unconditional love is a powerful thing, not because of what it gives us, but because of what it doesn't need. You don't love someone unconditionally because of how they look, how they act, or what they give you. You just love them without explanation, without logic. That's what makes it real. Because the moment you start listing why you love someone, like, they're kind or they support me, your love becomes conditional. if they stop being kind, if life changes, then that love becomes shaky. But true, unconditional love doesn't work that way. It's love without a reason. It doesn't need to make sense. It just is. And the same is true for creation. There's something called unconditional creation, and it's just as powerful. It's when you create something not to gain praise, money, or recognition, but simply because it wants to come through you. This is the kind of creativity that feels effortless and pure. It's not a strategy. It's not a hustle. It's flow. It's joy. It's play. When you create for something, for fame, for validation, for income, it becomes a chore, a means to an end. You're no longer present in the process because your eyes are on the reward. But when you create out of love, with no agenda, no pressure, no outcome in mind, the work becomes sacred, feels alive, feels free. And the result? It often ends up being more meaningful, more original, and more impactful than anything you could have planned. So whether it's love or creation, the principle is the same. Do it without needing a reason. Do it without needing something back. Because that's where the real beauty lives. Chapter 11. What do you do after experiencing peace, joy, love, and fulfillment in the present? Once you've felt deep peace, real joy, love, and fulfillment in the present moment, the question becomes, now what? How do you stay there? How do you keep that feeling alive in your daily life? The truth is, all of those beautiful feelings, peace, joy, fulfillment, are already part of your natural state. They're always there. But the moment you start overthinking again, you disconnect from that state. That's where suffering creeps in. Every negative emotion, worry, anxiety, fear, frustration, it all starts with thinking, specifically overthinking. So if you want to stay connected to peace, you have to practice non-thinking. And yes, it's hard, because the ego doesn't like being quiet. The ego wants to label, protect, react. It feels threatened when things are still. That's why, during any kind of spiritual awakening, you might go through discomfort at first. It's part of the process. It's not a setback. It's a sign that something is shifting. What helps is awareness. Just noticing what's happening. Oh, that's just my ego reacting, is already enough to create space between you and your thoughts. But you can take it one step further by creating what the author calls an activation ritual. This is a simple morning routine you do right after waking up that builds momentum for the rest of your day. Could be anything: meditation, a walk in nature, breath work, journaling, light movement, anything that helps you start your day with clarity and stillness, instead of chaos and mental noise. The goal is not to do more. It's to begin the day in alignment with your natural state, peaceful, centered, present. Because once you experience peace, your job isn't to chase it again. It's to stay close to it. And that starts by thinking less and living more. Chapter 12. Nothing is either good or bad. We spend so much of our lives labeling everything. This is good. That's bad. This decision was a mistake. That one was the right choice. But what if none of that was actually true? What if, at the most basic level, nothing is inherently good or bad? The way we feel about an event isn't based on what actually happened. It's based on how we interpret it. It's not the situation that causes pain or joy. It's the story we tell ourselves about that situation. And that story, it always comes from thinking. The mind wants to judge and assign meaning to everything. This shouldn't have happened. This was unfair. This is amazing. This ruined everything. But in reality, life is neutral. Events just happen. They're neither right nor wrong, good nor bad. They just are. It's our thinking that makes them feel pleasant or unpleasant. And once we recognize that, we gain a powerful kind of freedom. Instead of reacting to every situation emotionally, we can step back and just look at the facts. Facts don't carry judgment. They don't twist reality. They're neutral, like life itself. So next time something happens, instead of asking, was this a good or bad thing? Ask, what actually happened? Detach from the judgment and just see the event for what it is. Because once you stop labeling life, you stop suffering over it. And that's when peace returns. Chapter 13. How do you know what to do without thinking? Even though life doesn't always have clear right or wrong choices, some decisions feel better or worse than others. Big decisions about careers, relationships, moves, can bring up a lot of worry and anxiety. Why? Because we try to figure everything out by thinking it through. But here's the thing. Often, deep down, we already know what's right for us. We call it intuition, inner wisdom.
Gut feeling.
It's like an internal GPS guiding us. Not loud or pushy, but steady and true. The real challenge isn't knowing what to do. It's having the courage to do it. We get stuck because we're scared, afraid of making mistakes, afraid of failure, afraid of change. But that quiet inner voice is always there. You don't have to look outside yourself for answers. They're already inside you, waiting to be heard. Trusting that voice, your intuition, is how you move forward without getting lost in endless thinking. Chapter 14. How to follow your intuition. To truly thrive in life, we need to stop overthinking. The state of flow is what connects us deeply to everything around us. When we're caught up in thinking, it creates a barrier between us and the natural wisdom inside us, between us and what some call the divine. This barrier leads to frustration, anger, resentment, and even depression. To see life clearly, we have to be fully present. The past and future? They're just illusions. They don't really exist outside our minds. Following your intuition means trusting that you have an inner wisdom, an internal compass that's always there to guide you. This is the state of non-thinking, or flow. In this state, you feel connected to something greater. You lose track of time, and positive feelings naturally arise. Life itself is a miracle. Think about it. Millions of tiny events had to happen just for you to be here. Most things in life are beyond our control, yet many people live as if they control everything. One of the few things we can control is our own happiness. And we do that by letting go of endless thinking. That gut feeling you have? That's your intuition. Instead of trying to force things or control everything, learn to listen to that feeling and let it guide you. It's interesting how intuition often goes against our rational mind. Most people don't follow it because they're scared, afraid of uncertainty, afraid of making mistakes. But when you trust your intuition, you open the door to a life that feels more natural, joyful, and true. Chapter 15. Creating space for miracles. When your mind won't stop racing with thoughts, it gets crowded, overflowing with ideas, worries, and noise. But when you stop thinking, you create space. Space for fresh ideas, space for inspiration, space for miracles to happen. One powerful way to create this space is by questioning your own thinking. When someone challenges your ideas or opinions, don't feel the need to solve it right away or argue for hours. Instead, just pause and rest. Give your mind a break. By doing this, you open the door for new insights to come in naturally, without force or struggle. Creating this mental space is where true growth begins. Chapter 16. What happens when you begin living in non-thinking? Potential obstacles. When you start practicing non-thinking, expect some challenges. Non-thinking means fewer worries and less stress. At first, you'll notice that things that used to bother you won't have the same power over your emotions anymore. You'll begin to feel peace and calm, something unfamiliar and maybe even uncomfortable at first. That's normal. Overthinking tricks us into believing it keeps us safe. But really, it just holds us back. Here's the good news. You can still be just as productive, maybe even more productive, when you live in a state of non-thinking. So don't let the discomfort stop you. Keep trusting the process, and you'll find freedom and clarity on the other side. Chapter 17. Now what? The moment you understand the state of non-thinking, a whole new life begins. When challenges come, and they will, remember, the answer isn't to add more, but to subtract. Subtract the overthinking, the worry, the mental noise. This simple idea is life-changing. Once you truly get it, you can't unlearn it. Non-thinking isn't complicated, because the truth is usually simple. Embrace it, and you open the door to peace, clarity, and freedom.